What if the emotions you feel aren't always yours? What if the weight you carry belongs to someone or something else entirely? Stay with me, because today we're diving into the hidden truth of what it means to be an empath. A truth that might just change the way you see yourself and the world around you. When I speak of the empath, I'm not talking about someone who just gets people's feelings. I'm talking about a living bridge, a conduit for energies that ripple through the unseen layers of existence. An empath doesn't just sense joy or pain. They channel the unspoken currents of the human soul. And that, my friends, is both a gift and a gauntlet. Empathy is often painted as a soft, glowing virtue, a halo of compassion. But let's strip away the Instagram-filtered spirituality. True empathy isn't a cozy blanket. It's a crucible. It's raw, untamed, and sometimes dangerous. The empath doesn't just feel. They become a vessel for what others cannot or will not face. Picture this. A lone figure stands on a cliff at dusk, arms outstretched, as whispers of grief, rage, and longing swirl around them like a storm. These aren't their emotions. They belong to strangers, ancestors, even the earth itself. The empath absorbs them, not by choice, but by nature. And unless they learn to navigate this storm, it will tear them apart. The weight of the unseen. In my work, I've met empaths who didn't know they were empaths. They thought they were broken, too sensitive, too fragile for a world that demands toughness. One woman told me she'd wake up crying, not knowing why, only to later learn a friend was grieving hundreds of miles away. Another man described feeling suffocated in crowded rooms, as if he were drowning in a sea of other people's chaos. This is the empath's reality. They don't just pick up vibes. They're tuned into the undercurrents, the unacknowledged pain, the buried dreams, the shadows that others shove into the corners of their psyche. And when those shadows find an empath, they cling like ivy, heavy and unyielding. There's a story I heard once from a healer in a remote mountain village. She spoke of a child who could feel the sorrow of the trees when a forest was cut down. The child would collapse, feverish, whispering about roots and rain. The village called her cursed, but the healer saw something else. A soul so open it couldn't yet distinguish itself from the world. That's the empath's challenge, to learn where they end and the world begins. The shadow of sensitivity. Empathy, left unchecked, can become a thief. It steals your energy, your clarity, your sense of self. The unconscious empath is a magnet for the unresolved, a beacon for those who carry wounds they refuse to heal. And the empath, drawn by a primal urge to soothe, often becomes the caretaker of someone else's darkness. I once dreamed of a man walking through a city of glass. Every window reflected someone else's face, angry, weeping, lost. He reached out to touch the glass, and his hand passed through, pulling back covered in ash. He looked at his reflection, but it was gone. That's the danger. The empath who doesn't know their own edges risks dissolving into the collective pain they carry. This isn't just psychology, it's alchemy. The empath is a crucible where raw, unprocessed energies are held, but without awareness, they become a dumping ground. The rage of a coworker, the grief of a parent, the fear of a stranger. All of it can lodge in the empath's body, masquerading as their own. In the initiation. So how does an empath survive this? Not by shutting down, but by waking up. The path isn't about building walls, it's about forging a compass. you must learn to ask, is this mine? Whose pain am I carrying? What am I trying to prove by holding it? This is the initiation of the empath, not a one-time event, but a lifelong practice. It begins with turning inward, facing the parts of yourself you've ignored while tending to others. Maybe it's the child in you who learned that love comes from fixing people. Maybe it's the fear that if you stop carrying others' burdens, you'll be left alone. I've seen empaths who fell in love with chaos, not because they were weak, but because their gift made them a lighthouse for the lost. They mistook the pull of someone's wounds for connection. They thought saving others would save themselves. But here's the truth. You can't heal someone else's shadow by becoming it. The dream that speaks. In one of my dreams, I saw a woman weaving a tapestry in a forest clearing. The threads weren't hers. She pulled them from the air, from the cries of unseen voices. The tapestry grew heavy, dragging her to her knees. She wept, not for herself, but for the story she wove. Then, a quiet voice, her own, whispered, "Cut the threads that do not belong." That's the work, to discern what's yours to carry and what's not, to weave your own story without tangling it in the chaos of others. It's not about turning away from pain. It's about witnessing it without letting it define you. The empath's alchemy. The awakened empath doesn't just feel, they transform. They become a mirror, reflecting back not just pain, but possibility. They learn to say, "I see you, but I am not you." They offer presence, not possession. They hold space, not burdens. This is where the magic happens. When an empath claims their sovereignty, their sensitivity becomes a sword, not to cut others off, but to carve out their own space in the world. They stop being a sponge and become a beacon. They don't just absorb, they illuminate. The call to sovereignty. If this resonates, if you've ever felt the weight of a room shift onto your shoulders, I invite you to pause. Ask yourself, what am I carrying that isn't mine? Where have I confused empathy with obligation? Who am I when I'm not saving someone else? These questions aren't a rejection of your gift. They're a reclamation of it. The empath's power lies not in how much they can hold, but in how clearly they can see. Not in how much they can feel, but in how deeply they can discern. You are not here to drown in the world's pain. You are here to witness it, to name it, to transform it, not by sacrificing yourself, but by standing in your truth. So, what's your story? Have you ever felt like you're carrying someone else's emotions? Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear how this resonates with you. If this sparked something in you, hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. Let's keep this conversation going and uncover the truth of what it means to be an empath together.